Well, you may not hear about it as much as you used to, but the opioid epidemic remains a nationwide threat.
Massachusetts health officials say opioid deaths on average have increased 3% every year since 2015. In 2022, the last year full records are available, more than 2,300 people here died of overdoses.
Now, those outcomes don't stop on city streets. The issue is prevalent behind bars as well, but progress is being made in treating inmates for those addictions. Joining us to talk about this effort is Middlesex County Sheriff Peter Koutoujian. First off, Sheriff, thank you so much for being here. I think that's the important first thing to start with. But the second thing is, I'm from California, and sheriffs there, perhaps a little bit different than sheriffs here. So for those that maybe aren't aware, I guess, what does your role look like here in Massachusetts?
Sure. The idea of sheriffs is different from state to state. Yeah. Here in Massachusetts, I think we have the blessing of focusing more predominantly on the correctional side of things. Sheriffs everywhere, sometimes they'll have power of arrest and patrol powers. We don't do that here in Massachusetts. We have, each city and town has its own police force. So we'll take those people that are turned into the courts and given to us by the courts. We'll house people that are sentenced up to 2.5 years to the House of Corrections, and all those that are pretrial right now across the state. We also support our local police with warrant apprehension teams and SWAT teams and assets as they need, only to supplement and support what they do every day.
Sheriff, I remember one of the first times we met, you said to me, this is probably 8 years ago or so, that running the Middlesex House of Corrections was like running a substance abuse program, that it was the biggest substance abuse program in the state. I'm wondering if you have any statistics on how many inmates first arrive there with some sort of substance use disorder.
Yeah, well, actually, it's both substance use and mental health. Right now, the 3 largest mental health treatment facilities in the entire country are LA, Rikers, and Cook County jails, and we're the largest mental health treatment facility in Middlesex County as well, which is a sad statement on affairs and what's going on with our justice system as well. But yes, 56% of those that come into my custody already have a pre-diagnosed mental illness, but about 50% also have a diagnosed substance use disorder. But that number is much higher of having some type of addiction in their lives and it leading to justice involvement as well.
And of course, we've talked also in the past about it's a house of corrections, and one would hope that there is help being given to folks who are the inmates there. Do you have any info on how much progress inmates are making when dealing with their addiction issues? Oh, yes.
We have a really robust set of programs and medication-assisted treatment, one of which we use all 3 forms of medications used to treat opioid disorders. It is something we're really proud of, and we've shown statistically significant results, which we're about to be published soon. This will be about the 7th time we're published in the Middlesex Sheriff's Office, showing that there has been a reduction in recidivism, meaning being reoffending once you're out. But also, more significantly, that's a great metric that we use in the law enforcement. But the real metric we need to use now with the opioid crisis is those that we're able to save from overdose death. And so we've also shown that there's been a statistically significant reduction in overdose death when people participate in these programs as well.
It's hard to find someone who isn't touched by someone who has an abuse disorder, and I think we all have experience with people getting medications from their doctors, or if they're in a detox or in a treatment program, they get medications to help them deal with their illness. Does that happen?
Yes. So actually, what we do is, if you are on a prescription for methadone or Suboxone prior to your becoming incarcerated, we will maintain that prescription based upon the recommendation of a clinician, not us. And then also, if you're just about to leave and you want to participate in a medication-assisted treatment program, then based upon the consultation with a clinician and the recommendation, then we'll put you onto there too. But the fact is, medications aren't. Medications are what got us into this problem, right? Everyone thought that the oxys and the perks were going to solve the problem of pain and have no addiction and no side effects. Well, that was completely wrong. Medication is really important for the treatment of opioid disorder and alcohol disorder, actually, too. But the fact is, it's medication-assisted treatment. If you don't have those treatment modules, and that means programming to deal with underlying trauma and counseling and things like that, cognitive behavioral therapies and others, but also you don't have those connections from the inside to the outside through a navigator and the case management of a connection to a community health center or a clinic outside, then it's going to fail. So it's the medication-assisted treatment is the way to go.
I wonder, while you put this program together, did you have to sort of change the way you thought about everything, about treating inmates with prescriptions?
Well, I actually had the blessing of, prior to becoming sheriff, I had been a public defender and then a prosecutor and then a legislator. And as Sue knows, I was the chairman of the Committee on Healthcare and Public Health. So I had a different perspective than many of my colleagues across the country that are sheriffs. So I had a training in mental health issues, substance use disorder issues, medication-assisted treatment, trauma, all the things that drive people into being justice involved. You know, there's a saying I always say, the social determinants of health, you know, meaning that we have premature mortality rates, are also the same social determinants of justice involvement. And they can be homelessness and mental health and substance use disorder and a failure of social network and a failure in education and so many other things. The very same things that ail people with their health, they ail people that are involved in the justice system.
I'm sure you talk with your colleagues all across the country, even here just locally in Massachusetts. What has their impression been of this? Are they receptive to maybe doing this themselves?
Yes, so actually, you know, now every sheriff's office in Massachusetts is doing this type of program. This is not the case across the country, but continually I am traveling to state and speaking on national networks in order to speak about the idea that you can do medication-assisted treatment and to educate people in a way that they need to hear from a colleague. They need to hear from another sheriff, really, to understand it. Not a clinician, but a sheriff saying, it's a good thing you can do it, and you will have good results from it as well.
What about for your employees? The mental health toll on working in this environment must be a lot. Is there anything that you're doing to support them as well? Well,
you know, and it should be we should be mindful of the fact that we're just about to begin Correctional Officers and Employees Week, right? A celebration of the work that correctional staff professionals do every day. It's really one of the most noble professions, and they do an unbelievable job, and they never get the credit that they deserve, but it's such an important component to what we do every day. So yes, this type of job, as with any type of first responder or law enforcement, takes its toll on you. So it's really important for us to be mindful of that, to be looking out for their wellness, to look out for their family's wellness as well. And we do that through employee assistance programs with professional clinicians, also with a peer support program. So we have people on every shift that are trained within our own staff, that are peers, that can reach out to them as well. And we provide supports to not only the officers and the staff, civilian staff in our office, but also the families as well.
I would imagine that once the inmates leave your custody and they're back out in the real world, you want them to continue to make progress, to make strides in this particular area. Do you reach out to family members to try and get them involved and make those connections so that they can stay strong?
Yes, actually in Middlesex Sheriff's Office, we created the very first of its kind family support services unit. No one else had done this, and people kind of forget that the other victims of this incarceration that we never think about are the family members of those that are incarcerated, that are brokenhearted and suffering during this incarceration. So we've actually been providing, we've had well over 2,000 family contacts. We've served over 4,000 family members. We've had, I think, almost 1,500 well-being checks when a family member is worried about the well-being of their loved one inside. They haven't heard from him or her. We can go check and make sure they're getting the services that they need, and we'll also do a lot of remediation with those family members as well. A critical part of their successful reentry is having those family supports, the only social network sometimes that loves them and to support them in a positive way. That's what we try to encourage here at the Middlesex Sheriff's Office.
To that point, right? We don't see them, if we're not related to them or have a loved one behind bars, we don't think about them. What's the Frederick Douglass Project?
The Frederick Douglass Project is a really important initiative started by a Professor Mark Howard out of Georgetown. I heard about it. I brought it to Massachusetts. No one else had done it in Massachusetts. It's a program where you bring members of the public in to meet with a cohort of incarcerated individuals. You'll start with an open circle. You'll discuss some general matters. You'll break down into small groups to be able to speak more personally with each other, to see that shared experience you have. Then you'll come out into the larger circle, share those experiences, and then go home. And what's really important is, number one, it's really important. A jail is not a fortress on a hill. It's part of a community. And if you don't have the community's involvement and understanding and belief in what you're doing, then it will fail. So this allows the community to understand who these people are. They're not those people. They're our people. They're our friends and neighbors and loved ones and our children and our parents. But it's also really important for the incarcerated individuals because they see that the community cares about them. And this has been a vast and wild success, something I'm very proud of.
Well, Sheriff Peter Koutoujian, thanks so much for joining us. We sure appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, guys.
Congratulations on being Sheriff of the Year.
That was a great honor. Sheriff of the Year. Thank you so much.
Wow, very good.